Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, I'll be speaking on that topic there, agency and indigenous knowledge of border communities towards inclusive environmental justice. I'm going to be making a claim, and that is that border communities are not passive victims of external forces, but they play active and key roles through the preservation, adaptation, and application of their indigenous knowledge in dealing with environmental problems facing humanity. I'm going to try to substantiate this claim by clarifying the notion of environmental justice. Go to the next slide, please. Clarifying the notion of environmental justice and border thinking, border communities, and then I will discuss the challenges that are involved in depending only on one-sided approach to environmental solutions. And then I will go ahead to unveil the nature of the African eco-management system as a viable alternative to proffering solutions to environmental crises we are facing in the globe. And then I will refer to some of the case studies or examples of these approaches to show their practical application beyond Africa. And then by the time I'm done with that, the claim or my major proposition would become clear. Please, next slide. So I begin with definition of environmental justice. As we all know, environmental justice ensures that all communities, especially marginalized ones, enjoy equal environmental protection and involvement in decision making. For border communities, this means that they would have to be participating in environmental decision making, and then it would also imply that there will be a time to address eco-historical injustices and sustainability. So environmental justice also means that certain the neglect of border communities or marginalized societies would be a thing of the past if their voices are allowed to be heard and their agency, their ability to act independently and shape their own lives and environment are recognized. Next slide, please. And from that perspective, again, we look at border thinking. Border thinking from the works of Walter Mignolo is a decolonial theory that tries to approach knowledge and power and tries to approach the issue of knowledge and power from a perspective that values local experiences and lived experiences of the marginalized communities. And then it ultimately tries to challenge dominant Eurocentric paradigm. So border thinking comes from a decolonial theory and challenges Eurocentric narratives. It is essential, border community is essential in the attempt towards or the drive towards environmental justice because it helps to shift power back to the people, especially those affected by ecological harm. Now let's look at the next slide, which is border community. The notion of border community is characterized by marginalization and inequality. Border communities are groups of people living in geographical regions that lie along or across political boundaries. They are groups of communities living in social or cultural margins due to race, ethnicity, language, or migration status. And so you see the link between border communities and border thinking. And they are faced with structural exclusion, such as limited access to healthcare, education, and of course, participating in decision making as it has to do with environmental governance. Next slide. So the problem that this talk is trying to deal with is the fact that attempting to solve environmental problems, environmental crisis from just one side approach or from just one perspective does not enable the co-creation of knowledge that could help in the solving of environmental problems. And so it is mostly an attempt that moves from top to down in governance and ignores indigenous knowledge system, thereby reinforcing colonial and extractive framework. So border communities are mostly affected because they are least consulted. And this is a major problem that we think that, giving room for other voices and the voices of the marginalized in the attempt to solve this global environmental crisis is very necessary and important. So here we are trying to now introduce, go to the next slide, please. We are trying to introduce the African Eco Management System as a means, another alternative and viable means of solving environmental problems, lending its voice alongside other voices so that there will be no one-sided approach. There will be rather creation of solution to the problems we are all facing. So African Eco Management System is a community-centered approach rooted in African traditions. It emphasizes harmony with nature in the areas of forest conservation, water management, soil care, wildlife protection, and so on and so forth. There are 5 basic principles that undergird African eco management system. Please go to the next slide. You have the principle of reciprocity with nature, principle of collective ownership, where every voice is heard, and then intergenerational knowledge transfer, such that future generation also benefits and their voices will be heard, and there will be sustainability and the preservation of the ecosystem. There is also the principle of cultural embeddedness, so that context is very important in the attempt to solve problems of the environment facing the humanity, and then of course local adaptability. These principles promote stewardship that is ethical, spiritual, and sustainable, and sustainable for society. And so this is very important model we are trying to push forward. Some of the examples of this, please go to the next slide. Some of the examples of this African eco management system include the forest and sacred groves. In most African society, there are these attempts to protect, the forest and the sacred groves, and this helps in preservation of wildlife and biodiversity. So when we have in many African communities, forests are considered very sacred and are protected through cultural norms and taboos. These forests serve as biodiversity reservoirs and water catchments. The community sees itself as a guardian of nature, not just a user of resources. And this is environmental protection embedded in African cultural belief system. Next slide, please. The second example we want to use to substantiate the importance of African eco management system is in the area of water management through customary laws. Water management is another strong aspect of African eco management system, where local laws govern access and usage of water bodies. Streams are protected through taboos and seasonal usage and patterns of using it. In most cases, women are often made to play leadership roles as water custodians, ensuring equitable and sustainable access. So with this, we discover that the African approach to conservation and water management is very important in solving some of the problems of the environment that we are facing in line with that. So environmental justice then can be assessed or approach or achieve through African environmental eco management system, which offers an alternative framework for environmental justice. It restores local ownership over environmental decision, recognizing the agency of this indigenous knowledge system, helps communities to resist displacement and foster social cohesion. African environmental eco management system also helps to foster social cohesion and turns passive victims of injustice into active agents of ecological governance. This is the point we are trying to make. And then there are many benefits for this approach to environmental solution. Please go to the next slide. First is that the benefits of AES goes beyond the environment. It goes ahead to empower the local communities. It goes ahead to also improve their ecological health, and of course preserving their cultural identity and promotes long-term ecological health. Also, it also reduces conflict because resource management is rooted in both rules. These are some of the social environmental benefits of the AES, African Eco Management System, that we are proposing as an alternative to Eurocentric approach. And then the broader applicability of this approach is also very important to highlight. Please go to the next slide. Thank you. AES can serve as a model for other marginalized regions. Go to the next slide. Next slide, please. It's very important here that we look at the broader application. Even though AES is rooted in Africa, its logic applies elsewhere beyond the African continent. So many indigenous communities across the world have similar knowledge system and must be recognized. You see, their agency must be given room to. AES can inspire cross-cultural learning, policy innovation, collaboration between traditional and scientific environmental governance models, which is the essence of this conference. And then, despite the benefits that have been outlined for African environmental eco-management system, there are certain challenges and that we need to consider. And these include that the fact that the indigenous knowledge system is most often or most times unrecognized in formal policies. Globalization and urban expansion and climate change, of course, colonialism and imperialism continue to threaten these systems. So to protect AES, we need policies that respect indigenous sovereignty and prevent exploitation of their knowledge system. Next slide, please. Conclusively, environmental justice must move beyond Western paradigms. Indigenous knowledge systems like AES offer sustainable, inclusive alternatives. When we center the voices of border communities, we not only correct historical wrongs, but co-create just futures. The reason is because environmental justice is not just about nature, it's also about human beings. Thank you for listening. Next slide.